Hello, hello. Welcome everyone as you start coming on in. It is Banner and Backbone presenting Palantalk with Nick Perro,
Palantalk.
Shane Urich, and our guest and friend, both of Banner and Backbone and of all of her other amazing Substacks and publications and in-person actions is Melissa Corrigan. So, welcome to the show,
Hello,
Melissa.
hello.
Could you introduce
Welcome.
yourself to everyone as I get some
Nice.
channels and chats and all the good stuff pulled up for us on the hosty side? So,
Absolutely.
take it away,
Uh,
Melissa.
s-
It's good to see
so
you.
I'm Melissa Corrigan with Counterstory Media. Our tagline is "We exist to audit the narrative," and part of that is the absolute radical truth telling that has to come with this age of technological advancements that are advancing by the day, by the hour, by the minute, that impact the lives of each and every one of us.
Well, it's good to have you, Melissa, and we're going to be talking about some stuff today that is right in line with what we normally do. Shane, I just put in our chat the link to the article that Melissa had just sent me, which is going to be some of the basis for the conversation. Melissa, if you don't mind giving a summary here, to start kick us off on it of that article here in a second, is we're going to talk about flock security, which flock security lines up really um, pretty pretty straight in line with the Palantir, specifically, Peter Thiel specifically, and the surveillance state that is being built within the United States right now and is actively being used while being built to target individuals, both those who are possibly of illegal immigration status or unknown immigration status, or just Americans who happen to be Hispanic looking because racial profiling is a thing again. Um, and so, Melissa, um, if you don't mind, take it away, please, and give us a little intro. Or Shane, before Melissa jumps in, anything you want to say? Good mornings, and then
Yes.
we'll let Melissa take it away.
No, absolutely.
Pat,
So,
I'll post the link in all the chats here in a second too.
yeah, I also put the link in the chat, so you should be good to go. Oh, I got it. There you go, Kat. Um, well, guys, yeah, obviously, Melissa has done a lot of research into this. This is something she knows quite a bit about. If you've been here with Palantalk, which a lot of you come back every week, which is so awesome that we see you guys every week. But I've mentioned Flock as well several times, and Melissa having done this research and going to be able to expand on this for you guys is really important. Flock is just the beginning, right? Flock is just the start, and I always say, and it's important that we have analogs and case studies, um, and you're going to see as she talks about this too. One of the things I think about a lot is how similar this is to what we see in China, and how this is the beginnings of the American variation of the Chinese style mass surveillance network. I have seen the way these camera feeds coming out of China look, how you just have cameras that are like mounted on a freaking skyscraper that can zoom in on a license plate on the freeway. They have like these little, the square reticles that pop up and track. It's crazy. Like, we have this tech, and arguably our tech is better. So, you know, it's very I encourage you to take, what we hear out of Melissa today very seriously, and understand that it's indiscriminate. So it doesn't necessarily matter if you follow the politics or if are very involved in a lot of ways. Like, it doesn't care. Technology doesn't care. Mass surveillance doesn't care. It universally applies to each and every one of us. And it's really important that, you take what you learned today and share it widely and liberally, because this is something that affects every single person. And Melissa, with that, take it away.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I will say right up front that I write about a lot. I do a lot of deep dive investigations on government stuff, on political stuff, on military stuff. This is the only topic that I research and write on that, I'm going to be totally honest, scares me a little bit. And I have been contacted by insiders who have just warned me to be careful. So, with that, let me go ahead and just tell you everything. So,
So we're going to be
what
careful by being transparent, right?
right, just letting you know up front. So what drove my interest in this was the immediate concern, my immediate personal concern, when they erected one of these flock cameras outside my neighborhood. Okay, my neighborhood has one entrance and exit point,
Yeah.
and that intersection is now blanketed with flock cameras. There's not one, there's four. There's one on every corner of that intersection. So as soon as those cameras went up, I immediately was like, what is that? What are you doing? Who owns those? Those don't look like city cameras. So I immediately began asking questions. I tried reaching out to the city. Um, and the city made a statement a few days later, because apparently a lot of people who saw those going up started asking questions. So, number one, this was never announced to citizens that this was a decision that had been made for our city. That's not super unusual, because our local newspaper got bought out by a conglomerate several years ago. And so our local news reporting has really taken a nosedive, and so it wasn't super unusual that we didn't get notice that it was going up. But once the cameras went up and people started asking questions, it became clear that there was a lot of murkiness going on the back end. So they had the police chief on our local public radio station a few weeks after the cameras went up. And there was again another huge red flag moment as our local reporters asked the police chief how the data was being managed for those cameras. What did the data plan entail in terms of retaining that information and sharing that information? At which point, the police chief notified the whole public that there was no data plan. He said, "Oh, we're working on that." So the cameras had already been deployed and were being used by public officials with no plan in place. Which, if you've done anything in the IT world with data, that's insane. That's
That's super
completely
backwards.
and totally insane to go ahead and implement technology without having a data plan in place. So, two of
Before you
our
go on,
locals, yes,
can you is this in where data privacy is an interesting thing right now because of the only real thing that was supporting data privacy was Roe v. Wade. And when
Mhm.
that
right,
was taken away, data privacy laws were basically down the drain in a lot of ways. There are a lot of laws in place for banking and financial and PII information and HIPAA and GDPR, though GDPR is for Europe, but we do have data protections. Just before we get any further, there were no data protections in place for any PII or any identifying types of information,
nothing.
I
which
They
also have
literally
something
had
to,
no,
is illegal.
right,
yeah.
no policy plan, anything.
Yeah,
So,
And
I was a
two,
senior
really quick,
software
Melissa.
engineer
Um,
that, hold on one last sec. I'm going to finish this thought real quick, Shane, before you jump in.
you're good. You're good.
I was a senior DevOps software engineer who worked with data privacy and health related and PII and information my entire career. As a software engineer, I worked with health related data and that type of data. There's a lot of laws in place that protect your privacy on data. The fact that they released something without a plan in place should have been highly illegal and the camera should have been taken down immediately. Just
right.
FYI on that, how that should have
Oh,
worked.
yeah. Well, and it's interesting because like Melissa's story in terms of how she learned about Flock is exactly the same as mine. At this point, I worked at a Home Depot. Okay, so I drove into work every day, and one day I drive by. I'm sitting there in my car with my coworker, and I see this camera. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is that? Like, when did that show up? And so I like walked around. I took a picture of it, and I, was like put it in a Google search, and I'm like, what the hell? And then like Flock, what the hell is Flock? I looked it up. So I walked the whole parking lot, and like Melissa said with her intersection, okay. The thing about these cameras is they ALPR, automatic license plate reader. They're always basically at entry and exit points, so that no matter where you go off the property, you're getting your license plate tagged. And interestingly enough, in California, we have a law. It says if surveillance is going to be put up at a private business, employees need to be notified within 14 days, written notice that that's going to happen. And that didn't happen. So not only did they put these cameras up and subject every employee who has to go to work to surveillance, they broke the law. They broke the law by not giving us written notice. And this is a private company. They have every right to put up cameras on their property. But kind of just to the point that we're getting at here is these cameras are going up illegally, and there is no pushback. There's no pushback, not on a state level, not on a federal level, not on a local level. It's just happening, and it's a serious problem. I just wanted to add that because I also came about, finding about a Flock camera in the same way. Is it just shows up, and you're like, what is that? Like, what is? And that in itself is concerning. Like, they have to talk to somebody to put up a camera, right? So no one is raising these flags. No one's like, hello, like these cameras are going up. Everyone's just like, okay, like why is the state, like even my state, California, like we're, litigating on the National Guard. We're litigating on ICE. We're litigating on all these things. And why the fuck are we not litigating on mass surveillance? Like, what is happening?
Right. So
Well,
there have
sounds
been,
like we are, though.
and I also want to point out that we are now at a point where over 5,000 cities, towns, and municipalities are using Flock cameras. Over 5,000. And last I read, that's rapidly approaching 6,000. So chances are pretty good that if your town isn't already using them, they may be in the pretty near future, or they may be looking at some sort of technology that's similar to this. So we had two local citizens. I went home and started looking up what the cameras are. I did the exact same thing you did. I took a picture of the camera, put it in Google reverse search to see what it was. Then when I Googled it, the first thing that came up, because it's my area, is that two citizens of my city are suing the city for the implementation of the cameras. Number one, without a data plan at all in place, but simply for the surveillance aspect of it, because what these cameras do is circumvent our Fourth Amendment rights. So federal and local law enforcement, along with private companies, by the way, can purchase the data from Flock Security without a warrant. So it's a way around having to get a warrant to surveil someone. So that's the issue that's being debated in our local system right now. So we can back up and talk about what Flock Security is, because it's not getting a lot of headlines, because really it's sort of it's a vendor. They're a vendor that provide products, which are these cameras, and another product that they offer is a dashboard. And the dashboard is the software that, according to my insiders that used to work for one of these companies, the software, this particular type of software, is what Peter Thiel is really excited about. Security cameras and license plate readers, those companies are a dime a dozen. But Flock Security has a dashboard where law enforcement can pull together not just other streams of surveillance, not just um, private records. It can also pull social media streams. So
Hmm.
this is where you get into building a profile on an individual. So it's more than just tracking your movements around your town. It's potentially connecting those movements to your financial records, your employment records, and then finally your social media, which is where you talked about that China behavior comes in. This is the behavior of the Chinese government where they assign their citizens a social credit score.
Mhm.
And they do that by plugging in all these different points of data and establishing if you are currently a good citizen or a citizen who may be a threat or doing or saying things that may be a threat to the Chinese government. That's the type of dashboard that Flock Safety has designed. So that's obviously, yes.
No, I just wanted, I had a thought you said earlier, and before we went too far away, I wanted to circle back to it because you said companies can purchase Flock Data's um, information. So I just wanted to, because we talk a lot about security and privacy and all of these things as well, but I also wanted to say that they probably originally built this from a marketing perspective. Which is interesting. The general justification would be if you're trying to go about this from a non-surveillance state is say, oh, well, I know. And like, why does Home Depot do this? Well, it makes a lot of sense when I think that, well, if they are able to link your license plate to that, they're able to see, okay, this person visits this store X amount of times a week. That allows them to use targeted marketing towards people based on the frequency of their visit to a certain location. And if that data is just purchasable in general, which is what I think you were saying, that someone can
Yes.
basically pay Flock. Oh, so, for example, if you have a grocery store or something and they want to purchase Flock data, they can say, well, I know that all these people go to this grocery store. As their competitor, I can now do targeted marketing towards those people. And a lot of the times, I think this justification can come from that perspective. Why are they building something like this? Well, it's not for mass surveillance. It's so companies can do better targeted marketing. Um, which is one of those things where even marketing is so poorly regulated, and marketing in and of itself is absolutely a form of surveillance, which is how they've been able to build this out for so long, because they track you across the internet using metadata and
Yes.
using your search history. And that is absolutely something that we're going to see. And that's probably the common thread as to how they got this far under, and like, just last thing to add here before we go on is like, under Biden, it's not like our security laws were really that good. Like, our government has been lobbied against in this sense, like the money coming into all of these things. Like, I was reading some of the like orders that came out of the Biden era in terms of data privacy and what they wrote about, just basically mass surveillance and basically group data. And there was like, there's no regulation. They basically are able just to like grab huge amounts of data. And all they did to increase our protections was better define some of the terms around like gathering large data sets. But this goes back to like, the war on terror in the early 2000s, when they
Yes.
realized they just started grabbing huge amounts of data and citizen data. And they have it, and they like are only able to hold it for so long or whatever. But we know that's not true. And this is one of those things where this is not new, and the laws and things in place, the key for all of this. And if you like, again, like, I didn't look into this really until like all of this started, and I started digging and looking for answers when I discovered all of this tech shit. But what I can say is that ambiguity is the most important tool that is used when it comes to data collection. And it, just in general in the government, when they say they write in protections, they say they make laws to counter these things. But if you read them and you look at the level of ambiguity they use in the definition of these terms and these regulations, there's so many fucking loopholes. Like, what these laws need is explicit restrictions on processes and certain algorithms, certain like processes and how data is aggregated, how it's used, how it can be collected, because data in general has been a violation of the Fourth Amendment forever. Like, we've been under unconstitutional surveillance forever. This is like, as long as the technological, social media age has been a thing, we have been under surveillance. Now the difference is the tools that they have created to leverage this massive set of data, which is that dashboard that Melissa is talking about. That's why Thiel is trying to buy it, because he wants it for Palantir. He wants this dashboard. And as of right now, he doesn't have control over that. And that, I think, is why he's so aggressively, it appears that he's pushing to acquire Flock. But with that, I just wanted to add that before you kept going.
And also, one of the things most people tend to forget about data privacy laws in the most recent months and years is they're not intended for protecting citizens and individuals. They're actually the laws themselves are written to protect companies and corporations.
Yeah.
That's the real individuals they're protecting. It's not us and people. The rights and privacy laws are written from a standpoint of how does this protect the bottom line of the shareholders, not the people who the data belongs to. Because if that was the case, your data would be yours unless you explicitly said that your data could be sold, which is how it should be, is you should own your data up until the point that you say, I can explicitly give you permission to use this. And then when you revoke permission, it has to be revoked on their side too, with confirmation. Like, that's how data privacy should work, not what we have right now, which is company focused data privacy. We're talking about like individual needing individual real privacy. So I want to settle that in too, because part of this is all on the privacy standpoint. And I'm I definitely want to base some of the next steps of this discussion too, Melissa, around one of the pieces that you talk about in here in terms of flock safety. And I hopefully did not go past it, was the Palantir piece, right here in the middle is Project Gotham, um, and the internal policing tools that Palantir has already developed, and how this ties into the flock safety dashboard, and reporting system, and what you've found there, because Peter Thiel has interest in purchasing flock safety, for Palantir. And we want to make sure people know about that, as well as what it could mean in the construction of a surveillance state based on what Project Gotham is. So could you give um, a little bit of primer from your side on what you've learned about both of them, or Project Gotham plus the other three, and then how that ties in with the flock safety?
Yeah, I'm having a
Assuming
coffee
you
fit.
don't die on us.
I know, right? I've been fighting this cough for a few days. So I wanted to go back to the data, the amount of time that they can store the data. So this was addressed in Virginia's most recent legislative body, and they did come out with a law that limits retaining ALPR data under Virginia law to 21 days.
Hmm.
However, an expert witness for the defendant. Now, let me go back. I have begun downloading the entire case the entire docket for this case, because the federal government has now entered the chat and entered a statement of interest. So prior to this was two citizens suing their city. That was the scope of the case. Flock Safety tried to intervene and join the case. They were initially denied that by a judge. It looks as if they have been able to worm their way in, at least in terms of providing counsel. But last Saturday, the federal government, the federal Department of Justice, has entered a statement of interest, which caused the entire case to halt. And now the trial that was supposed to start on Tuesday has now been pushed to February because the federal government's getting involved. So whoever, I have to dig into these get into the evidence, but whoever the expert witness for the defense has testified that this state mandated time limit of 21 days does not apply to downloads of data. So how can you download data that doesn't exist after 21 days? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting verbiage that I have noted. So when you go back to pulling this into what the Palantir world does, Peter Thiel has designed an entire encapsulation service of data, and is looking for intentionally looking for ways to use some of that data as AI enabled defense. They want to use this for defense.
I
And
have a
when you look
question,
at the,
Melissa.
yes,
So you were talking about how this law basically prevented them holding data for more than 21 days. And
right,
basically you're saying it doesn't apply. So you were saying that like it doesn't apply to downloaded data, or so my question, and maybe I'm but like my thought when you said that and is okay, they can't hold it, but what's to stop them from immediately taking that data and putting it somewhere else? Like the
right.
loophole there is exceptionally like it, okay, so they can't hold it. That's fine. Like was there anywhere in that law that said they can't take the data they acquired within that 21 days and put it somewhere else?
That's that's part of what I'm digging into, is the actual verbiage of how the law reads in terms of how their expert witness is interpreting that law. That was a note I literally just made last night when I was skimming through one of those. So I just discovered this last night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I anticipate that's what they're going to do, in which case this is part of the reason that this case needs to be public information, because the
Yeah.
public needs to know what they're trying to do with loopholes like that, so that we can go through our legislature to close that loophole. Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
like we need to close loopholes. Sorry.
when you look at what Gotham can do, as it factors into all of the Palantir tools, and I don't want to be alarmist, okay? And this is where we've all grown up on these type of futuristic movies. Um, Palantir has a tool that's developed that is a freestanding gun that can be AI triggered. That's technology they already have that exists. And they would like to deploy that along the southern border, so that when one of their cameras picks up someone crossing the border, instead of dealing with it through human intervention, there can just be a weapon deployment. So this is what we're talking about, that's not futuristic, that has already been developed. That is a real thing that exists. So for those of us who are extremely concerned about these types of cameras and these types of technology integrations, that's why. It's not because we are predicting or projecting out this very alarmist thing. It's because that alarmist thing does in fact exist. That
Yeah.
tool already exists. So flock
So we're
safety,
talking about extrajudicial killings just by saying that this person is in this region of, say, a uh, militarized zone between us and the Mexican border, or us and the
correct.
Canadian border, or us and states against states. um,
Mm-hmm.
types of things. That's what you're saying is it would be
Correct.
automatic little bot firing turrets like Skynet
Correct.
and
And in that same
Terminator.
vein, we also have to acknowledge that Flock Safety has also begun to build drones.
So Terminator, to be exact, and Skynet. Like Palantir is trying to
Right.
build. Peter Thiel is trying to build Skynet and any form of like death AI that's ever been in existence. That's basically what is being built right now. Just so everyone
Yeah.
has context as to what
Right.
the US government is trying to do is actively build Skynet and Terminators because
Yeah.
if you
Right.
replace people on the battlefield, you don't have to worry about people dying. You can just send drones off to war and we can
Yep.
fund wars forever.
Well, also to
Right.
extrapolate on that, right? To go further, okay? Like if you're a minority, right? And one of the things we're seeing them struggle to do is get um the loyalty of the military. Okay? So it's something that they're really not able to do. Like even these National Guardsmen, they don't want to be there, like they don't want to be doing it. Like, but the key here and the biggest roadblock to any form of minority rule is that you need people to enforce this. Historically speaking, like that's the failing of fascism, of autocracy, is that populism ultimately results in the overthrow of a minority. Now, the key here is that they are trying to solve that problem. And I have to emphasize these people are solving the failures of previous autocracies, the way that China has seemingly done in a big way. In like if the soldiers won't help, okay, well Palantir has the software, like the ability to have a turret that shoots people, and I would not be surprised at all if they were training this in Gaza, right? Like they all like need places to train this. So what, they probably
Right.
just put these things on top of an Israeli tank and they let this thing like train by shooting all of these innocent Palestinians, like all of this. But now imagine again, we have to think, if I have this thought, then they've already had this thought and they've already put millions of dollars into it. Flock's building drones, they have the software to put a gun. How long before that drone is flying around with a gun on it and they are just shooting people? Like, oh, citizens credit, your social credit has dropped below 0, dead. Like,
Yeah.
we need to be candid here. This is not like some shit
Right.
where, oh, they have already demonstrated they are willing to go as far as necessary to retain power. And we need to understand that like this is so fucking real, and that's what Palantalk is about. And
Yes.
if it should scare the shit out of you, it scares the shit out of me. It scares the shit out of Nick and Melissa. It's fucking scary. And understand that like this is not like she said, like this is already developed. It already exists. They already have all of this data. They've like in this article, like when I was skimming it, like they have like Doge. What was Doge? They went in and they got all of these separate databases, all of this data that was not centralized, and they inserted Foundry into it. So now they have all of this data they can link. Like at this point, like this is beyond anything like you could comprehend or imagine in terms of like what people even think is possible. It's been quiet on purpose. It's happened silently. But the second it gets rolled out, like it's more of a matter of they need to get to and I've said this kind of before, their biggest hurdle right now is the energy required to roll this kind of stuff out effectively at scale, which is why they had these executive orders drafted, which is why they are now opening up brownfield and Superfund sites to build data centers and energy infrastructure to allow them to run this kind of program at scale, so that they can have Foundry and Gotham running 24/7, so they can have drone swarms flying over Chicago and flying over Memphis or San Diego or Sacramento or LA or New York or any of these cities that have demonstrated that they are not willing to bend the knee and have been doing this. Well, what happens when, you know, and like what now we have DSP7, DSPM
NSPM 7.
DSPM7, and now they've legally created all of these obscure terms to designate people as terrorists. And guess what? They can shoot terrorists with like very little justification. Like if they put that in you know Gotham or Foundry and then link you to terrorism, they have already laid the groundwork for a drone to kill someone in the street and then say, well, they were a terrorist. Like, that's straight, like, this is already here. Like, this is not
Right.
like a obscure thing. Like, the only limitation they have is the energy infrastructure that they need to actually do this at scale, which is like why it's so important. Like, we don't fucking let that happen. Like, that has to be stopped. Like, the infrastructure is the only barrier. So we need to, like, you know, and I have an article that I wrote on NSPM7 that I'll send over that we can put in the show notes. But like, this is like, I don't know like what else to say other than like, this is unbelievably real. And it's not like something that is far off. Like, we have one saving grace, one protection, and it's not anything that we have existing in law or anything. It's literally just the fact that they will need to destroy the planet to get their dystopia fully secured. They need energy. Why the fuck are they burning coal, right? It's because they don't care. They don't care how they get the energy. It doesn't matter if it's wildly inefficient. It doesn't matter if the emissions are nuts and it destroys the environment in a way that like it doesn't matter. It's about just getting energy. So
Yeah.
anyway.
So I'm gonna follow up with some more like real life, very startling things that I have seen digging through these case files. This is super startling as someone who lives in the city. This is my city, and reading this is truly, truly alarming. So I'm gonna give you some numbers. Norfolk has about 227,000 residents. We now have 172 flock cameras to surveil 220,000 people. We aren't a large city. We live in a larger metro area with a cumulative population of about a million, a little over a million people. But our city only has 227,000. To have 171 cameras is insane. 172. And of those, that does include retail locations, Lowe's, Home Depot. And here's another fun piece of it. An HOA, your HOA perhaps, can purchase flock cameras. 41 of our flock cameras in Norfolk are neighbors snitching on their own neighbors because these are purchased by HOAs, and every single one of these HOAs, per these court documents, has agreed to full turnover of the data to law enforcement. No question. Open access to law enforcement by private cameras bought by this private entity of HOAs. That's totally crazy. Like, that's so bonkers. So
So
part
here's,
of
I would say if
part
you're in an HOA and you have a flock security camera in your HOA and you are not the president of the HOA, go fucking contact your HOA and go,
Yes,
nah, get this out of my property. I
right.
did not consent to this in my original HOA agreements. I have never consented to having my security violated in these ways. Like, you can push back
Not just
and
that, I
do
would
it.
go door to door and inform each one of my neighbors what these cameras do. And did you agree? Because did you know our HOA purchased these? And do you agree to constant surveillance of not just yourself, but your any guests that come to your home being surveilled in this way? Because I'm willing to bet if the entire HOA in all of the homes that were subject to that HOA truly knew, they would not agree to that type of
No.
surveillance. So out of the discovery, part of what the plaintiffs in this case asked for was they demanded to know how many times their license plate specifically had been tracked. And it literally took the judge ordering that, because Flock did resist turning that data over. But once they were compelled to turn that over, one of the plaintiffs, these cameras were put in June of 2023, and this discovery was compelled February of this year. In that time period, one of the plaintiffs, who is a retired veteran, he doesn't go to work every day, um, has been tracked 562 times. The other individual doesn't even live in our city. She lives in the next city over, comes to work in our city. She has been tracked 814 times in that span. So the expert witness for the plaintiffs, they have I'm not going to give his name. He simulated more than 15,000 routes within Norfolk. And his analysis showed that 78% of trips through anywhere in our city, you are tracked by at least one camera. 55% of those routes are binary reconstructible. That means at least two cameras have tracked you and can then put together that part of your route. He said that most routes can be reconstructed almost entirely off of flock camera footage. So they can trace your route from your home to your grocery store to your kid's school to your doctor, anywhere within the city. Over 50% of the time, they can completely track your route. And so that's part of what this case is that law enforcement is, of course, saying, no, we never do that. We would never trace your route through the city. This is a one and done picture. And that's already being overturned as discovery goes on in this case. We are seeing that they have, in fact, put together those license plate images to create tracking of routes in active criminal investigations. So that's something they are already doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
part
and
of,
somebody in the chat, a good friend, Kimmy, says they should be able to find all those missing kids at this point. Like,
right,
if you live in a city, but they aren't using it for that sort of shit. They're not finding missing
exactly.
children. They're using it to target and track minorities, trans people, people in the
Yes.
military who are dissenting, people, because where they're doing it a lot, and the excuse that is probably going to get used in the filings by the Justice Department is national security. They're going to
Oh,
use this the
absolutely.
excuse of we have to know because it's near a military installation. Well,
Right. So what part of what I'm looking into, and it's going to take a little bit of legwork on my part because this is one of the first documents they sealed. Some of the exhibits have already been sealed in this case, which should let you know something right up front. One of the documents, the very first things that were sealed so I could not get access to it, is the map of where all these cameras are. Number one, shouldn't citizens know where the cameras are?
mhm.
What's the problem in letting the public know? So, what I'm going to do is to have a team of my son's friends go look for cameras, and we are going to begin to document where these
Nice.
100, if you take out the HOA cameras and the retail cameras, that leaves you with about 102 cameras that we are going to attempt to manually verify where those cameras are, because I am willing to bet if you overlay a map of neighborhoods with concentrations of Black and Hispanic Americans with the map of those cameras, I am willing to bet that it doesn't so much have to do with national security and our military base in this town. It has to do with monitoring our Black and Hispanic communities. We have huge Hispanic communities, particularly over here on my side of town, and we are seeing ICE activity happen in the middle of the night. They aren't pulling day raids like they do here, out in LA and Chicago. They're doing stuff in the middle of the night. How are they getting that data? Is Flock Safety already selling that data to ICE? That's part of what's being discovered in this case. So you're right. They are using this to set up a surveillance network that is specifically targeting low income and Black and Hispanic neighborhoods. And that's verifiable. Like, I'm going to go ahead and speak that into existence, because I know when we began to put that map together, that's exactly what it's going to show. I live in a predominantly Black, historically Black neighborhood. I have 4 cameras just on the entrance to my neighborhood. So I am absolutely sure that it's going to overlay with low income and especially Black and Hispanic neighborhoods. Absolutely.
So one of the other things you were mentioning too the other day in all of this was you were talking about cities being able to erect them on any light pole, including the ones that are in your front yard.
Right.
Um, can you talk about that? Is that to mean if you say have a private property slightly outside the city with a little bit of acreage and they put a power pole onto your property which has the meter on it and that's
Right.
where they connect from, you're saying they could put a security camera on that
Not
pole?
just they can, they have. So in Memphis, Tennessee, there is a prominent activist she's been active for decades in her community. She was especially outspoken during Black Lives Matter, so I guess she got on the wrong people's radar. Their company that they're choosing to go with is MANN, which is another line of these cameras that are license plate reading cameras, and they have put a camera on the utility pole in this woman's front yard, trained at her front door. Why you need a license plate reader trained at your front door, and you're trying to tell me that's just a license plate reader? That's already bullshit in and of itself. But
Yeah,
not only is it tracking her uh movements now, it's going to track anyone that comes to her home, anybody that comes that may
Mhm.
be discussing community activism and organization activity is now going to be tracked at her home. My husband and I have a recurring joke that, whenever we pull in our neighborhood and see a utility truck, are they putting my camera up? Is today the day that I get a flock camera in my yard? Because that is what it's coming to, that is already being done in America.
yeah, yeah. And it also another place that most people will be less likely to look for them, though you should be very open to look for them, is on state borders. I know this because I
Yes.
live on a state border that has a security camera that is right on the interstate. Um, and toll booths, any toll booth that you go through, this is what we're talking about. But now take all that metadata. Shane and I talk about metadata a lot here and how you can minimize your metadata and maximize your impact in a world of surveillance. This is where we talk about like alternate your routes home in an
Yes.
unpredictable way. Don't always go home the same way, but don't make it like an everyday thing where you do weird routes. Go home on a planned route that you normally would, but add in sporadically and randomly as different data points, different gas stations, go a
Yeah.
different route home because they can track your car. Your car has
Yes.
GPS in it. If you have OnStar radio in it, I bet you somebody is buying up that data, wondering where your OnStar is or where your Sirius XM is pinging from or any of that. They can pick that up or just from your car's computer when it goes in
I
from
like that.
for a pickup.
As I was going through some of this evidence, like deep in some email or testimony, I don't
Hmm.
remember, but one of their experts kind of laughed when someone mentioned GPS, and they was very chilling. There's a line in there, I'm gonna have to go find it, where he kind of, I guess he laughed and said, "We don't need GPS." Cool. That's cool. So I'm gonna throw in an even more chilling development that is very, very fresh. I researched them this morning. Okay, so I promise I'm not doing the weave. I'm setting the scene. Okay, the coffee shop that I go to almost every single day is next door to the head police precinct as well as the city hall. It's all one big building for Portsmouth, Virginia. So that means in that little coffee shop we get politicians, we get city council members, and we get police members as well. And what we also see on a very regular basis is any vendors or contractors that work with the city. right? So I'm having my coffee the other day, and there's a team sat right next to me that's very obviously government contractors or some sort of contractors. They're dressed super nice. They've got their MacBooks and everything. One of them had on a little a polo with a little logo that said Axon. So I'm nosy. That's why I'm an investigative journalist. So I immediately, while I'm sitting there, begin Googling what the fuck Axon is and why they are in Portsmouth. So here I am thinking Portsmouth may be a little bastion because they don't have these big visible flock cameras and they're not participating in flock. Let me switch back to the flock court filings. Deep in those filings was an email saying Norfolk PD has opted into the Fusion One dashboard. Please connect them with the Fusion One dashboard. That's spelled FUS, or I'm sorry, FUSUS. I'm thinking of Fuse and my friend over here. Okay. FUSUS, FUSUS 1. This is a dashboard that's an open platform that plugs right into strategic information centers, unifying security feeds from city cameras, transit cameras, privately owned cameras like those at 7-Eleven, schools, churches, office buildings, as well as private civilian security cameras.
This is public?
Axon is a company that is helping to combine, you talk about metadata. When you drive through Portsmouth, you're not going to see big black flock cameras, but you are going to see on every building private security cameras. Well, apparently, hundreds of people, businesses, and organizations in Portsmouth have opted in to that platform. So now on one big platform, we've got Norfolk's flock camera data, and we've got Portsmouth's private camera data from all of those private individuals and companies who thought this would be a great idea. As of right this minute, in Axon's terms of service, they cannot take a private owner's data without written permission. However, we all know, and it's been long precedented legal standing, that a court order can override that. The federal government can compel an override of that contractual agreement under the Patriot Act. We all love the Patriot Act. So the federal government can compel a private citizen to turn over private surveillance data under the Patriot Act, which has only been reinforced by legislation since then. So, just between Norfolk and Portsmouth, we've got thousands of cameras watching our every movement that are being compiled under this Fusus One dashboard that is accessible by any and all law enforcement. And as of today, Norfolk police officers have had access to this with minimal training and virtually no oversight. So if you have a cop that wants to stalk his ex-wife, he can do
Yep,
that.
that's first thing I fucking
That
thought. First
was,
thing
yeah.
I thought was like these assholes, like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but like, I don't know, like, I know there's good cops out there, but there's something about law enforcement that just attracts these toxic, awful men. Like because they crave power. Like it's if you're not good enough, like you're not strong enough, or you can't pass your military, boot camp or whatever. These guys, they'll go because they want to carry a gun. They want authority. It's
Right.
like generally speaking, like I these I don't want to use the word most. Too many law enforcement individuals are wife beaters. They're creeps. They take advantage of their position
Right.
to vent their anger on other people. And literally, you said that, and I'm like, dude, these assholes are gonna fucking like stalk their ex-wives, or they're gonna do like they're gonna stalk women, or they're gonna like find some guy or some person they don't like, and they're gonna just the these people are almost worse than like a tyrannical government, because in a lot of ways they just are like unsupervised, like, and then they went and got rid of a lot of the oversights. One of the first things they did was remove like the centralized database for police abuse, and now that body cam
Yep.
image, so these guys can go and get hired at a different municipality if they get kicked out of their other one. And it's like, it's a whole cultural thing. Like there's a whole thing down here in San Diego where our sheriff's department, okay, they're literally like a bunch of they aid and or enable all of these nail salons that they frequently park outside of, where these women are trafficked in from Asia. It's like a whole thing. Like, it's
Yeah.
the unspoken truth. And like, our sheriff's department, our police department has been enabling trafficking for decades. And like, I drive around. There is a fucking reason these guys, they pull up in like 2 or 3s, and they are always outside of a fucking nail salon, because they go in the back and they do horrible things, because they are generally bad people. And bad people, when they concentrate in a community, they attract other bad people. That's how it works. And
Right.
for whatever reason, you like all over, okay, like now in government, what is ICE? It attracts bad people. It attracts people like, look, you can look at the body cam footage of these dudes that are like pulling up on people. Like, these guys are fucking white trash, dude. Like, they're the worst of the worst. They're the people who just are like, oh, I could join ICE. Like, I saw a video of a woman, they were busting in her window, she had a baby in the car, and I saw these two guys. I'm like, these two guys are fucking nobody. I mean,
Yeah,
they
they
woke
were
up one
not
day,
law enforcement.
like the dude, like, and they don't even care. They don't even care if they show their face. They don't give a shit, because they want it to be powerful. They want to feel powerful, because they usually have no power. They have been, no one's interested in them, because they're trashy people,
Right.
and they need an avenue or a means to get power. And the people that have been pushed out of society for being trash, guess what? Now you have a government who is offering them a easy means to power, with lots of money to boot. Like, these are
Right.
generally poor people, and suddenly they can just lift themselves out of fucking poverty, and like, just, and like, these guys, like, I see them cuff and take away these women, and my heart breaks, because I know what these people are capable of. Like,
Yeah.
I know what they're doing. Like, I know, we all know.
Right.
Um, and it's fucking disgusting. It's disgusting. And it makes me
One
so
of the
upset
most
just to think about it and talk about
Yeah.
it. But
One of
yeah.
the most disturbing parts of these court filings is sort of the attitude of the police department in answering. They've had to be compelled to answer a lot of stuff, and when they were specifically asked about um, individual police officers' access to the database, their response was essentially like, "Just trust me, bro. Like, it's cool. Like, it's cool. What, we're not gonna let it's fine, we got
We're
it."
not going to
Like, it
let
was
that
a
one guy
total
do it.
non answer. It's clear they do not have, or did not at that time have, written policies and procedures for how individual officers would access it. At that point, several unqualified officers had already accessed the system. So it's really a joke, but not a funny
Yeah,
not
there's
funny,
no
haha.
laughing in this one.
Funny, uh-oh.
Yeah. I think also too, one of the things we haven't even talked really about in all of this, because we're so focused on the fact that our own government is spying on us and our own government is oppressing us, is tech companies have a very, very bad habit, and also have been known to work fairly closely with foreign governments when it makes them money.
Hmm.
Um, is there are very little restrictions on them selling your data internationally. And if a non-state or a state actor that is not of us decides they want to track citizens in the US, guess what? They can. It's available, because we don't have data protection laws in the US, which is something that the Banner and Backbone team is advocating very strongly for. Our incredibly strong data prevention and data privacy laws, where you own your data unless you give explicit permission for it to be used. And that is what we are going to continue to advocate for. At least I am, because things like this cannot continue to be like the normal and the trend and what we consider common, but they are now. Like this was future tech. We all kept saying, this is possible. This is possible. We know this can come. Like I was in the intel field. I worked in tech. I'm also a sci-fi fan. And like we all knew once we were put
Right.
under a partial surveillance, that was just the key unlocking that door for the rest of it to come through, and nobody
And
ever put it back.
the sad thing is, we aren't close to being at the point where they can just flip a switch and make all of this available to the government. We're there.
Mhm.
Like we are there. If that flip has not already been switched,
Yeah,
we are upon that moment. These pieces are in place. Like I said, Flock alone, which is only one vendor is in over 5,000, close to 6,000 American cities, towns, and municipalities. Just one. We know of Man, which is another company, the one that's in Memphis. We now know about Axon, which Axon is also the company that provides body cams to police officers. So that footage is also being poured into this stream. We are literally at the point where any day they can flip a switch and enact a full mesh surveillance network over the entire American people.
yeah. So with
Now go
that
have a good
lovely
day.
statement. No, 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 no,
No, no, no,
Melissa.
no, no, no,
You
no,
didn't
no, no,
realize
no,
this is an
no.
hour and a half show. You can drop off. You're welcome to
Oh
drop
no,
off if
I'm
you
good
want
to
to.
go.
Is this is an hour and a half show, and
Good.
we end this on a positive note every single time. We always end Palantalk on a positive segment, which is we boldly go beyond where we are now, and we enter space.
So
And we
I have good
move.
news for you then. I have a celebratory piece of news.
Ooh, I like it because Shane
And I'm
gave me
not going
some
to give
pictures
names
to
or
put
any
up.
other identifying information, but the lead of my coding team that is coding, we have secured the space in another country, a
Yep.
safe country, for the 1A collective, and the head of my coding team is a 62-year-old lesbian coder.
Fuck
Fuck yeah.
yeah.
Do we love
Heroes.
that so
Hell
much?
yeah. I do.
Love it.
I'm so excited for this too because I've been wanting a good, secure place where we can actually
Yes.
present real information and it be safe and not worry about Peter Thiel or Elon Musk or some shithead just turning it off on us and being like, ha ha
Right.
ha, you don't get access to your data anymore because we own the internet, not you. Ha 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 ha. Well, fuck you, Peter Thiel. We own this shit. You
Yep.
don't. So ha ha ha. Like that's
That's
my
right.
that's what I have to say about that. And because we've boldly gone into space, I'm going to hand it over to you, Shane, here in a second
I've got a great one for you guys today.
to
I've got a
talk about our space.
phenomenal one.
So, Melissa, welcome to our final segment or the second half of our show, which is like I said, we go on a lighter note, we talk something space, something fun, something sci-fi, because we're both nerds here. At least Shane and I are nerdy as hell here. And I know you're nerdy as well. And we love to talk something just relaxing. So, one of the good things we keep getting are cool new images and things from James Webb, from just new satellites and
Yeah.
probes that are getting closer to planets and different places within our solar system. So, Shane, with that setup, do you want to introduce the two pictures you sent me? I'm going to start with the one that looks kind of like an eyeball.
Yes.
Um,
So that's a
and
great
I'm
one.
going to pull that on the screen here.
So actually, beyond this being a cool picture, I am about to share something with you guys that blew my mind, and is so fucking cool. So what you're looking at right now is a model. Okay, so the idea is forever. Um, the general consensus among scientists is that gas giants have a solid core, like most planets, right? So under the pressure, you have more and more pressure, which creates solid, heavy elements, right? So Earth core is heavy metals, okay, which creates a strong gravitic field. The reason that we on Earth are not absolutely cooked by, solar flares and all of the radiation coming off of the sun is because we have a magnetic field that protects us, unlike poor Mars that got absolutely cooked because it has a very weak magnetic field. So for a long time, the assumption has been that gas giants, to retain all of this gas and these elements, this big, raging storm that is Jupiter, it also has a solid core. So what you're looking at is that there was always like an abnormality within Jupiter's core. Like they couldn't figure out like why its orbits and things were so strange. And you have all these different forces around Jupiter. And Jupiter has over 60 satellites, okay, over 60 moons. Like Jupiter is huge. It's hard to even quantify the size of Jupiter. Like it's really, really big. But here's the interesting thing that I learned is that Jupiter's core is not a solid at all. It's fuzzy. It's not a light element, and it's not heavy. It's actually fuzzy, which means it's constantly shifting and changing. So what you see here is the fuzzy core. Now, what I want to point out about this image is that the prevailing theory was that this was caused by another planetary body being pulled into Jupiter and causing a collision. However, they ran a lot of models, and using Juno, which is a probe that we launched in 2011 and has been out there for over a decade. I've been at Jupiter almost a decade or over a decade now. It has been able to collect enough data with every orbit for them to run these simulations. And they have found that even after a planetary impact, Jupiter itself would have returned to a solid core, but it has not. And they also were able to confirm this with Saturn's core as well. Both Saturn and Jupiter have a fuzzy core. What that means is that our fundamental understanding of the formation of gas giants needs to be fully reevaluated, because large gas giants do not have solid cores, which is absolutely crazy, because in every book, everything you read up to this point with this data, they've been able to definitively say that Jupiter and gas giants like it are not formed the way we thought, which is fantastic. It is a great example of how our science is able to constantly challenge the things we thought we knew. And these irregularities that they detect, it's like we have to give everything, every new idea credence, because the first person who said, well, I don't know if Jupiter's core is solid, everyone was probably like, ha, you fucking idiot, but now here we are. And now they've been able to show that even if there was a planet impact, it would have gone back to being solid. So we have an entirely new era of study that's going to come out in regards to these gas giants and how they have a fuzzy core. So the first picture you saw was of the original theory. But what you see in that is if a planet impacted, right? You have the core, and then you have that kind of debris coming off, which would have, if you think about it, right? If the core itself is not stable, you're also going to have it affect the gravity of the planet itself, because more mass is going to be on one side of the planet than the other, right? And so we see a lot of the moons of Jupiter have very irregular orbits. So that was something that I doubt any of you had heard of, but that I found exceptionally fascinating, and I wanted to share with all of you, because there is other things to think about and other things to ponder than the fact that the government is surveilling us, because this is fantastic. Like, despite what's going on right now we are still pushing the boundaries of what we know and understand. And if we can do that, we can push the boundaries of what's happening here in our society, and we can be better. And it just comes from a prevailing will to learn and understand. So that is my topic for today. I hope you all learned something and are as excited about it. Probably not as excited about it as I am, but find it exciting and cool as I do.
Did they know when that collision was?
Well, they don't. Well, the interesting thing is there may not have been a collision at all, right? Because they were trying to explain why the core
Yeah.
itself was acting irregular. So they're trying to think, well, because the prevailing theory was that gas giants have a solid core. So they're coming from the assumption that the planet has a solid core, and whatever it's doing, a outside factor must have acted upon it.
Right.
However, if the case is that the formation itself results in a fuzzy core, that would make sense. I mean, and if you think about like gas giants as a whole, like we don't really like it. Gas is very light, but also like they're so big, like the gravitational force to do that. Like, what's the pressure like? I mean, there's so many questions, when we're looking at something like a gas giant, because they kind of like defy everything that we think a traditional planet is. Like, one could argue like it's not a planet in the sense that we consider it a planet, because you couldn't stay. I don't think you could stay. My understanding is you could not stand on Jupiter. You would just go and go and go and go and go down until you reached the core and were crushed by the gravity of all of the gas above you, like the weight of the gas. But there's no solid, like you couldn't just pop over to Jupiter and like go for a walk. Like it's not like that.
But do they know how long of a time period this is taken to go fuzzy, so to speak?
But we don't know. That's the whole thing,
Yeah, you
right?
don't know.
We don't know if it went fuzzy at all, right? That's the
or if it just was
part.
that way.
Exactly. That's why they're calling into question the whole formation of gas giants.
I'm just trying to find a way if we can blame Jupiter and take the heat off Mars or Mercury in retrograde or anything. Can we say Jupiter's responsible for some of this shit?
What we can do is blame Jupiter for not releasing the Epstein files soon enough.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because it's
they
pretty
should be
fuzzy.
more transparent.
Yeah, less fuzzy about the Epstein files and a little more transparent and solid in our understanding, like the core should be, which is funny because the Earth's core isn't solid either, is what they found, is it's liquid on the inside. There might be like a solid metal, like core, like root, but everything around the like heart of the core is liquid. So it would make sense that Jupiter might have a fuzzy core. But then again, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a nerdy guy who likes
That's what I'm saying.
space.
Oh yeah,
I just
love
watch
that
a lot
shit.
of videos about space.
I was a kid watching cartoons and Bugs Bunny would tunnel through to China and I'd be like, actually, you'd run into magma. That was me.
Same.
Yeah.
That's because I watched Bill Nye the Science Guy at the same time, and I was like, no, that's not how that works. Bill Nye told me that it worked this way.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, fake news.
Absolutely.
But we're going to ground ourselves here for a second because I'm going to bring us back to our final piece, which is saying goodbye, which is where we can all find ourselves and how people can find and support our work. So I'm going to ground us a little and I'm going to try another little segment. Boom.
Nice.
Little shift is first, we're going to start with please support the network itself, Banner and Backbone Media. We are a rapidly growing network publication where we're hosting shows such as Palantalk, Ellie's Exclusives. We're hoping to start up a show with Melissa for Melissa's Missives, which we also want to do one for the Shirtless and the Mouth. And there is a very big ampersand in the middle of that, which would be a Jacob Summers shirtless workout video live streaming while Melissa's giving like constitutional monologues and rants. And then occasionally Jacob will bust in and be like, okay, going on to the next workout. Here's how you do this, this, and this.
Right.
And as
I
he's doing his reps,
Jacob will be topless, not Melissa. There.
Melissa is the mouth. Jacob
Just
is
going to
the
be very clear.
shirtless. We'll make sure so Substack doesn't ban us on those. But
So
we
clear.
also do things like our anti-fascist book club every Friday, where this Friday we have Christopher Goldsmith coming back and
Nice.
joining us for another discussion.
Sure.
And hopefully Stephanie Wilson should be back with us again.
Awesome.
I'm going to verify and make sure with her before I say exactly yes that she is. But I believe she's coming back with us. We're going to be doing On Tyranny, at least starting our read into On Tyranny. So please get your Timothy Snyder On Tyranny. Go from the library, bookstore.org, anything like that. Don't buy it
Oh,
off
what's the one
Amazon.
Shane said? Thrift
Books.
Thrift
books.
books. We'll put
Yes.
that in the show notes. Shane, send me a text with all the
Yeah.
information that I can share so that I can put it in the show notes right after. And everyone can get it. Is go get those books, all that good stuff for this Friday's upcoming anti-fascist book club. But on Palantalk, we come back every Monday here on Banner and Backbone with Palantalk. And we always give our hour-long segment something new, plus our little 15 to 30 minutes um, of just some good space talk. And finally, I'm going to hand it over to Melissa, and then actually, give me a second. I'm gonna hand it over to myself again for 1 second so that I don't have to talk anymore at the end. Um, is also please subscribe to me over on Sick of This Shit Publications. Used to be Sick of This Shit with Nick, now Sick of This Shit Publications. Going through a quick small rebrand, making ourselves look a little more professional. And an adult in the room on that one. That's where I do my poetry plus chronic illness discussions, general general chats, doesn't less political at times, um, and sometimes a little more positive. So go find me there if you want to too. And then handing it over to our friend and guest, Melissa Corrigan, to give where she can be found. I have her up on the screen. Melissa, how can people help you and support you?
Yes. As always, I don't do a lot of the call to paid subscribers, but lately I have been doing more of this as I dedicate more and more of my time. And this court case is, I mean, the involvement of the federal government is obviously, it obviously means this case is of great importance. I have a couple of partners here. Centered America and Banner and Backbone are helping to actually fund the download of the entire docket. It is thousands of pages of information, and you do have to pay to download that information. And I will be downloading the entire docket, everything that hasn't been sealed and redacted, unfortunately. And that will all be put on the 1A Collective website when it goes up. So that will be outside the US, and it will be a complete case docket of a federal case that will be open to the public, because I firmly and wholly believe in transparency and allowing the public to see that information. So yeah, that research is costing quite a bit more than we anticipated. So every paid subscription is going towards my work digging into this case and finding far more about flock safety than I ever wanted to know.
Thank you, Melissa. And yeah,
Thank you.
give please give and support Melissa as she's doing all of this. Banner and Backbone is supporting Melissa here. She's one of our contributors as well as just a friend of the show, and this is a huge issue that um, the network cares about. So go support her. Go support Banner and Backbone. Also, Banner and Backbone's 6 away from hitting the bestseller check mark. So we're almost up to 100 paid subscribers on Banner and Backbone, which means if you become a Banner and if you help us get there, all of our contributors will be bestsellers, and we'll be able to be bestsellers, which helps build all of us in the algorithm, build up the network and the brand itself, and shows a trusted face and that you all trust us. So help us there, because then we can help more initiatives like what Melissa is doing and get through big case records. And then Shane, I'm going to hand it over to you, brother.
All right. Well, for those of you coming back, you know who I am, but all of the new folks that have come, my name is Shane. I am the founder of the Firebrand Project. I am a polemic writer, a highly critical individual of the overall system that we're living in, and part of being a firebrand, which is every single one of you here, I say it every time, is someone who demands change, who sees through the bullshit and is willing to speak out against it. And it's a title that you should wear with pride. It's something that means something, and you should be proud if you're here to be a firebrand. But my primary mission, obviously, is to drive discussion. It's why I started the Firebrand Project. It's to provide people with a means to kind of shift the narrative and have my perspective, do with it what they will. We are grounded in truth. We are grounded in facts. And, you know, we don't pull punches. We say it how we see it. If you want to support the Firebrand Project, something that I've recently ended up being in a situation where I'm doing this full time. So it's a little difficult at the moment, but we've had like a ton of people step up to, you know, become paid supporters of the project. And that's awesome. If, you know, you're willing to do that, that allows me to offer a show Monday through Friday. I do something called the Firebrand Report, where I go and I find 3 stories or things that happened that day that are important, significant, and probably not being reported on and given the attention they should. And that's every single day at 12:30 PST or 3:30 EST, 2:30 CST. So that's a great way to get a couple things, a manageable amount of information, but not overwhelming. I will also be publishing a article daily, Firebrand Report monthly, and at the request of paid subscribers, we're going to be doing a monthly paid subscriber stream as well. But I'm able to offer all of those things because of paid subscriptions. So that's one of the things where if you guys want to support, obviously support Banner and Backbone, support Melissa, support Nick. But if you're able to support me as well, that's something that really makes a difference, and it does help a lot. But either way, a free subscription, a share, a like, a restack, all of these things help. And I always say, if you can't become a paid subscriber, that's okay. We don't want your money if you don't have it to give. We never want you to sacrifice your financial security for us. What you can do for free is become a free subscriber. You can like, restack, and share every single article, every single post. And it doesn't matter if you have any followers, because your engagement helps the algorithm share these things. So never feel obligated to be a paid supporter of anyone, but you can do so much to help creators like us, like all the contributors to Banner and Backbone, just by engaging with content like Palantalk, like Anti-Fascist Book Club, like, you know, the articles we post every day. But with that, thank you all so very much for coming to Palantalk today. Melissa, thank you so much for coming on to our show and joining us and sharing all of this fantastic and not fantastic things, but fantastic, important information that everyone needs to hear and understand.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's
Yeah.
our pleasure.
Thank you. And everyone in the chat, appreciate all of you for coming today. We'll see you again next Monday for another episode of Palantalk. Thanks, y'all. Have a great afternoon.